Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 on a Tuesday morning. We are recording. This is our sketch and coffee live stream where I wake up every morning and rush downstairs to art with my art buddies, to get my art on with my art buddies. I'm going to spritz these watercolors real quick so they're nice and juicy. I might come along later to get to that part. I want to make sure they're already soaked up and moist. This is the time of day when we pull a toy out of the toy box. It's a random object we pull out of the Random Object Randomogrifier. Where am I? What am I doing? Oh yeah, I'm turning the page. We pull a random toy out of a random object out of the Random Object Randomogrifier, and I draw it while I talk about the object itself. And today it's a spotted dolphin. Spotted dolphins are the freckled stepchildren of the dolphin world. There are two types of spotted dolphin, and this model is not a safari model. But even if it were, hi Ivy, my mom and dad are in the chat also. Ivy just joined us. But even if it were a safari toy, I'm not sure that they would go so far as to tell us whether it was a pan-tropical spotted dolphin or whether it was an Atlantic spotted dolphin. There are subtle differences. I am inclined to say that this is an Atlantic spotted dolphin because they are chunkier and have a shorter nose, but you really can't tell that if you can't see them in comparison. You can't see an Atlantic dolphin, an Atlantic spotted dolphin next to a pan-tropical spotted dolphin. How would you know that the one that you're looking at is chunkier than the other one? So that's not really a good way to tell. The other way to tell are the spots. I believe it's pan-tropical that have the spots closer together that look more like a black cape than spots. But that comes with age. That is not something that just happens overnight, because both of them, when they were born, do not have spots. Most of the information I was able to find yesterday on spotted dolphins was just generic dolphin information. And I contend that they don't really know much about spotted dolphins. Like I contend they probably don't really know why they're spotted. I will tell you, when I pulled this out of the toy box, I was elated because this seems like a very good one to have on a Tuesday morning, considering I have a meeting to attend at my day job on Tuesday mornings. And I have to be out of here on time. And so it is imperative that I get one that I can finish quickly. And this looks like it might be one to do that, because I mean, basically it's just a long, sleek tube like a worm. There are some subtle things like the swoop of that tail that I want to make sure I get right. I want to make sure that it's understood that body is in fact chunky. But beyond that, I mean, it's just basically draw a tube with a tail. Dolphins' closest living relatives on land are the hippopotamus. According to mitochondrial DNA tests, they are in a family of ungulates that split off from the rest of the ungulates about 60 million years ago, and then dolphins and hippopotamus, cetaceans and hippopotamuses split off from each other about 30 million years ago, just going by the mitochondrial DNA. But nobody really addresses how and why these little fellas have spots, or why there are two distinct populations of them that are speciated. Speciated is a big word for Elmo. It means they are differentiated by habitat, appearance, mating practices. And many things are considered a different species simply because they don't mate in the wild, not because they can't mate. If an animal is speciated, typically they can't produce fertile, viable offspring when mating. But lions and tigers, for instance, are speciated. But ligers and tigons can exist and do exist. So they are speciated more because of the fact that in nature they typically don't mate. Same with the spotted dolphin. Typically the spotted dolphin doesn't mate with other spotted dolphins. The Atlantic spotted dolphin and the pan-tropical spotted dolphin do not mate with each other. There are no known instances of them mating with each other. They don't recognize each other as potential mates. Pan-tropicals are worldwide. There are about 3 million of them in the world. Used to be 7 million, but now there's about 3 million. They're not endangered, they're just, their population is not growing. I've been stuck on this same camera since we started. Nobody said anything? Wow, okay. I did not realize the camera wasn't changing and you couldn't see what I was doing. I'm so sorry, folks. That fin should be more like this. The joy of ink is once you make that mark is pretty much there. There's not much you can do about it. Pantropicals are in all of the oceans, all of the warm oceans all around the world. My mom says, sorry, I got caught up listening. No, I'm not criticizing you, I'm criticizing me. I should have noticed that was not, that camera wasn't changing. That you couldn't see what I was doing. I should have noticed you couldn't see what I was doing. But pantropicals are in every ocean around the world that is warm oceans. The Atlantic spotted dolphin, I'll give you a minute to think about that and see if you can figure out where the Atlantic spotted dolphins might be most popular. Turns out the Atlantic spotted dolphin is most popular in the Atlantic Ocean. There's only about 70,000 Atlantic spotted dolphins, and they are off the coast of the United States and down in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico and up along the coast of the United States, where the pantropicals are typically they're in every ocean. They're most popular in the Pacific Ocean. And they're the ones, they say there's about 3 million of them. They have a pretty good count off the coast of the United States. They think there's about 55,000 of them, counting what's in off the coast of California and in the Gulf of Mexico. They think there's about 55,000 pantropicals in the United States area. They can't really get good global counts like in Hawaii and Japan, because they can't tell. These things have such a wide range. They can't tell if the ones they're looking at in Hawaii and Japan are in fact the same ones. So they don't know if they're counting the same. You two quit moving. I've counted you already. Now I got to start over. You know, that kind of thing. So, but they're pretty confident that they have a good count in the U.S. Ivy says she got up to St. Simon's Island in Georgia once, and it was amazing to see the dolphins swimming not even 100 feet offshore. It was quite an amazing sight. Yeah, because you know they're not fish. They can swim quite a ways up the river, especially a brackish river. They can swim quite a ways up. Because they're not fish, you know? All right, we don't really have to wait for this to dry. We're just going to go ahead and start colorizing this. I'm going to take a little bit of this blue, and I'm just going to take a touch of sepia, make it a little gray, but I want it very watered down. I think that's almost exactly what I was going for. Make sure and leave that shiny spot right there on the tip of the. That's called a melon. This little part of the head right here is called a melon on cetaceans. That is where they generate the sound that they use for echolocation. They don't have very good eyesight. Actually, dolphins have very good eyesight, but it's limited to just a few meters because, you know, it's underwater. But they use their echolocation way more than they use their eyesight. That's when they make little squeaky noises, even squeaky noises that we can't hear, high pitched, low pitched, ticks and whirs and whistles. And they recognize each other from their ticks and whirs and whistles, not from their spots. But the spotted dolphin spots are individual, like fingerprints. I do need to dry it down. back to the idea of speciation. We were talking about speciation briefly earlier. The thing that separates them from the other dolphins, that makes them think that these are a separate species and not just freckled stepkids. They don't typically breed with other dolphins, except bottlenose dolphins. Bottlenose dolphins are a bit promiscuous and will mate with just about any other dolphin. But here's the cool thing, and this is to me the most interesting thing about this is the bottlenose dolphins mate with the pantropical spotted dolphin, and the bottlenose dolphins mate with the Atlantic spotted dolphin. But the Atlantic spotted dolphin doesn't mate with the pantropical. So they're spreading genetic diversity just not directly. And I always go back to an example. There's a salamander in the California Rockies in a specific mountain range. You know what? I'm not even going to try to be accurate with those spots. I broke out a Sharpie marker to see if I can make spots small enough. I'll make 1 or 2 spots with this, and if it works, then I'm just going to use the Sharpie marker. Anyway, there's a salamander in a specific mountain range that when on the south end of the mountain, the salamander is more of a reddish color and attracts a mate by moving his body left and right in the leaves and rustling the leaves. That's not going to work. It's too fat of a mark. But in the western side of the mountain, towards the California side, that same salamander moves a little bit more like circles. And on the northern end, it's almost completely a circle. And then going on the eastern side of the mountain, that salamander circle opens up a little bit, and it's more up and down than left and right. And then coming all the way down the eastern side of the mountain, that salamander dances up and down. There's no break in the mating. All around the eastern side of the mountain range, those salamanders mate with each other. All the way around to the northern side, all the way around to the western side, and all the way back down to the southern side, all around the mountain, they mate with each other. But on the southern side of the mountain again, now you have 2 branches of the same salamander. One type of salamander is more reddish and moves side to side to rustle the leaves to attract a mate. And the other salamander moves up and down, and it's more yellow, and it moves up and down to attract a mate. And those 2 don't dance right. I can't move my left hand one way and my right hand the other way. But those 2 don't dance right, so they don't attract each other, so they don't mate. But they're mating everywhere else around the circle. and they are one rock slide on the north end of the mountain. If there was a rock slide on the north end of the mountain, there would be a separation between those species. That would speciate them, because they would no longer share genetic information all the way around the mountain. The same thing's going on with these dolphins. The pantropical spotted dolphin is mating with the bottlenose dolphin, and the bottlenose dolphin is mating with the Atlantic spotted dolphin. But if anything were to happen to separate the bottlenose dolphins from the two, if either one of them got isolated from the bottlenose dolphins, they would completely speciate and stop sharing genetic information. And I just think that's fascinating how that happens. It's why some of us have just a little bit of Neanderthal DNA still in us, and get really mad in traffic situations. What is today? How are we doing on time? It's only 5:52. We have plenty of time. I could continue working on this, but there's really not much left to do. What is today? It is the 10th. The 10th of June. I told you this was a nice one to have for a Tuesday, because then it lets me finish just a little bit early. But we can talk about conservation, because there is an issue. You know, they went from 7 million, pantropicals went from 7 million dolphins in the 60s and 70s to about 3 million worldwide now. And so there is an issue with conservation, and the problem is they get caught in the fishing nets, they get caught up in the boats, they get trapped and can't breathe, and they die. And there's 70 of them a year in Japan that get eaten. And so they don't reproduce fast enough to make up for the losses for that. But they live almost 40 years. They live longer than 40 years. People have been swimming with them long enough to recognize that they live longer than 40 years. And if you think about that, that gives them the opportunity to pass on generational knowledge, because they teach their young. They teach their young how to hunt, where to hunt. And if you think about them passing on generational knowledge, that's 4 generations, 5 generations, because it takes them 10 years to mature to sexual maturity, and then 10 years, and then they have a calf, and 10 years later that calf can have a calf. That's a child and a grandchild. 10 years later the grandchild can have a calf. That's a great grandchild. And 10 years later that dolphin can have, that calf can have a grandchild. So 3 grandchildren, a grandchild, a great grandchild, and a great great grandchild, plus the matron in the same family, in the same pod. They can have up to 50 in the deep water. They can have up to 50 dolphins in a pod, and they all stay together like that. And they pass on generational knowledge, like don't touch the boat. And so you think about what they learn from each other, and then you realize that they're being killed off by noise pollution that is making it hard for them to hunt. They're being killed off by fishing nets and being caught up with the tuna. And that's why that big push in the 70s and 80s to eat tuna that was dolphin free, it was dolphin safe. But there are still quite a few of them. They are not considered endangered now, and they are coming back. They're just nowhere near the numbers they used to be. So that's really good news. We just have to make sure that we're not eating dolphins, especially things that are considered, they're self-aware. They can recognize themselves in the mirror. They pass on generational knowledge. We don't know how intelligent they are, but I will tell you, Douglas Adams had a book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and in that book he talks about how people think they are the smartest thing on the planet because they built cities and roads and societies and economic structures and all of the other things that people do. And dolphins think they're the smartest thing on the planet because they did not do that stuff. He may have some sense there. Anyway, that's what we're doing for today. That's the dolphin. Let's get a good shot of it here overhead. Let's go to that camera, and you can see it next to the posed one there. And let's get the other camera down here so you can see it from my perspective. That is wild how I keep forgetting to eject that camera. All right. Let's get a picture of it from my perspective so that you can see how it looked to me. Ooh, that's exciting. There's how it looked to me. And I didn't make the body as dark as the dolphin looks because I needed to be able to differentiate the spots. So, took a little artistic license with that. But, okay, where are we? Why won't my mouse work now? I'm having battery issues, I think, with my mouse again. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me. You know I look forward to this every day. Let's see what we're going to pull the Randomogrifier tomorrow. Girl 2 has already pulled this out for me. She's supposed to be joining us, but I don't think she can hear her alarm at 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh, look, it is I believe that's a jaguar. Is that a jaguar? That is indeed a jaguar. Jaguar. Of course the camera's going to change. Why would the camera change? The camera didn't change when we were painting. Why would the camera change while I'm trying to talk to the face? Anyway, so there is the jaguar we're going to draw tomorrow. So be sure and join us tomorrow at 5:30 in the morning, and we will do that one. And thank you for joining me again today. If you want to join me tomorrow, it's the same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And then we dance. We dance till somebody says they see me dancing, because that way I know the lag has caught up to the stream, and I know that we are